whom my husband had brought back. My name is. Before she could finish, the sound of the cup being placed down startled her into silence. You call her sister so naturally, he said, his tone calm. She calls you brother. Why are you so upset? I truly feel for you. At least she didn't call you uncle right off the bat. Your age is what it is, you're taking advantage of the situation and still getting angry. He smiled upon hearing this. But his smile was forced. He addressed me by my full name, Leonru. Do you think your husband is how old now? To be honest, my husband looks very young. Especially when he wears his crimson official robe and rides a horse down the long street. It's quite eye-catching. But he passed the imperial exams at just over 10 years old. Has been in the bureaucracy for years. And never shows his true emotions. His depth is written in the prestige of his early success. Like an old fox that never shows its tail. Though marrying him is a great honor. When my father proposed, he looked at me and said, "This delicate girl of mine will probably be eaten alive by him, leaving not even a bone behind." My husband and I were well matched. Both from prominent families in the capital. We should have lived in harmony. But he had someone else in his heart. Living in the palace. The Empress was generous. As soon as my husband entered the palace, she granted him a concubine. The girl kneeling before me had nothing special about her, except that her face bore a striking resemblance to the Empress. I wonder who she's trying to provoke. What's going on? My husband handed me a cup of plum tea, as if discussing someone completely unrelated. We don't accept strangers in our household. I glanced at the girl kneeling on the ground, my face flushing, rarely softening my voice. I called him husband and beckoned him closer to whisper. He was taken aback by my actions. A fleeting spark of surprise in his eyes. He shifted his body slightly closer to me. But he didn't get too close. Sitting up straight with his back straight. Not being overly intimate. But his eyes never left my face. It was all my fault. My breath brushed against his ear. Filled with regret. My lady. Speak freely. His tone was gentle. His face bore the certainty of someone who knew I had been deceived. Your husband has a way to handle this. He glanced at me, regaining his confident demeanor. I fidgeted, a blush creeping onto my face. I pressed my ear against his, confessing that it was my fault for being drunk and acting improperly toward him. After speaking, I moved away from him. Looking innocent, my lord always teaches me to be upright before heaven and unashamed before the earth. I could never abandon someone I've led astray. His face turned pale, doubting his own ears. He held the teacup suspended in midair. The girl kneeling in the corner couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. He finally came to his senses, staring at my flushed face, his expression darkening. Originally, my husband had opposed the idea of returning to my family for the imperial inspection. It was because my mother didn't like him. Lin Ji's heart isn't with you, this life won't be easy. Sure enough, on the night of our wedding, he was summoned to the palace. The next day, I had barely finished serving tea to my in-laws when I was sent to the palace to see the Empress. The Empress sat in a high position, truly a beauty renowned throughout the capital. I knelt on the ground holding hot tea, my hands so hot I couldn't feel them. But I didn't dare move. When the tea cooled slightly, I immediately sent someone to refill it with hot water, repeating this over and over. After noon, the hall was quiet except for the constant chirping of cicadas. And the heat was like a wave. No one came to plead for me. A maid whispered to her, "The court has already dispersed, and Lord Lin's carriage has returned to the mansion long ago." His face turned slightly red. He cleared his throat, and the swana sounded. It was either ascending to heaven or the wedding ceremony. I just love this thing. I downed 2 big gulps of wine to calm my nerves. But something was off about this wine. It felt hot and restless. "Can you play anything else?" I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, accidentally brushing against the white hibiscus flower on my hairpin. He acted quickly, catching it steadily. He gently rubbed the bud with his fingertips, then looked up at me with such innocence that he couldn't withstand even the slightest tease. "It's the wine that's off. Aw, brother. Your hands are so smooth." I took the white hibiscus flower and felt dizzy. "Aw no. Brother. Why is your palm a little rough?" I rubbed it hard and opened my eyes. There was a callus under the ring finger of the young man's left hand. It was from playing the suona since he was a child. He held my shoulders steady, not daring to go too far. "Hey. Something's wrong. Why is my hand sticky?" I leaned on his shoulder and smelled a hint of blood on him. He was quick-witted and blew out the candle so I couldn't see. "Sister. Do you want to hear me play something else?" I vividly described this shing encounter to my husband. The young woman kneeling on the ground sat cross-legged, swallowing her saliva. "He really has." The words were on the tip of her tongue, but she glanced at my husband's expression and realized that such outstanding musical talent could make the shing sound so beautiful. That night, Lin Ji had the young man guard my room alone and play the suona against the cold bricks, as a tribute to the old prince. I lay on the bed in Lin Ji's study, listening to the suona playing for a long time in the distance. My heart ached. Lin Ji sat far away from me, sitting upright with a book in his hands, his eyes fixed straight ahead. "Husband." He lifted his eyelids to look at me. I leaned in and whispered softly, "I've been listening carefully. And his shing playing isn't that great." He shifted his gaze. "I find it quite pleasant to listen to." The shing suddenly stopped, and shortly after, a maid came in and said, "Master. The young master has fainted." "Oh no!" I quickly got out of bed. Lin Ji gave me a cold glance, and I quickly pulled my feet back. Another maid came in. "Master. The young master has woken up. He says he feels unwell and wants to see the lady." "If he's feeling unwell, call a doctor. Why call the lady?" He remained expressionless and turned a page of his book. I pulled myself back under the covers, but couldn't help peeking out. Lin Ji caught me. He glanced at me, then tried to look away, but his gaze lingered on my shoulder, which had slipped out of the covers. He paused for a moment, then turned his head away. The fingers holding the book curled slightly. "Already dizzy? You must be feeling a bit weak." He suddenly raised his eyebrows and glanced at me with a mocking smile. "Lady. It must be my fault. I had made him play the flute too much those days. So he was feeling dizzy." I whispered in defense. His hearing was always sharp. He paused in turning the page, raised his eyes to look at me, as if trying to see through me. "The prince passed away suddenly, and I was deeply saddened." I put on an innocent expression, lying without hesitation, and could only ask him to accompany me in playing the flute to express my grief. As soon as I finished speaking, another maid entered. "Master. The young master says that his older brother was right to scold him. He doesn't want his sister to be put in a difficult position. He can manage on his own." Upon hearing this, Lin Ji slowly placed the scroll on the table, pressed it down, and looked at me with a smile, looking just like a fox. At first, I didn't understand the meaning of the suona, but upon hearing it again, I felt like I was already in a coffin. Since he plays the suona so well, he must know when to play and when not to. "Right, madam?" The Lin mansion is truly strange. The sound of the suona has been playing non-stop for 7 days. "Oh, you don't know. Lady Lin is the younger sister of the princess. It's the 7th day after the prince's death, and everyone is in mourning." As the carriage passed through Chang'an Street, vendors selling steamed buns and green hats were chatting in front of the Lin mansion. Upon arriving at the prince's mansion, I walked straight to my eldest sister's courtyard. She was surrounded by the old prince's dozens of concubines. "Hey sister. Come catch me." Oh, little sister. Don't run away. When she saw me, my eldest sister hurriedly gestured for me to sit down and called one of the concubines, Lonner. Quickly bring the cooling tea you just made for your sister to taste. Lonner brought a bowl of soup with a smile. Sister. Try it. I just learned how to make it. When she handed it to me, I saw a red scar on her elbow, and her hands were covered with old wounds. I had heard that the old prince was stupid and snatched girls from the people, but seeing the wounds made me feel a little scared. She sensed my gaze and instinctively tried to pull her hand back, but was firmly held by her elder sister. Gentle yet firm. He's already dead. Our elder sister speaks so calmly, rarely showing any cruelty or decisiveness. No one can harm you now. I drank a few sips of cool water, and the heat in my body dissipated, making me feel more lively. My sister is skilled in medicine and has taught us much about herbal remedies. We sisters review the lessons daily, hoping to learn as much as possible. Once we have mastered the knowledge, I wish to return to our hometown with my sisters and become healers. After speaking, Lonner was called away by the other sisters and younger sisters. Under the scorching summer sun, several older sisters were waving fans to call her over, their smiles charming and delicate. She ran over, holding the hem of her skirt, and a gentle breeze blew through the skirt. The Fengqing troops arrived swiftly, led by a general who was my father's disciple. He bowed to me. We apologize for disturbing the lady. Judging by that sword technique, he must be the assassin sent to kill the old prince. Please return to the mansion immediately to avoid further trouble. But before my carriage even reached home, I was summoned to the palace. The aunt who led the way was a servant of the empress. The burns on my hands had just healed, and I had no idea what new misfortune awaited me. As I walked through the endless alley, the palace walls seemed to grow taller with each step, pressing down on my head. In the distance, the sound of music drifted from the pavilions and towers. It was a banquet in the palace. My aunt led me to my seat, but she disappeared in an instant. Why are you here? Lin Ji, who had already taken his seat, frowned upon seeing me. Beside him sat the young woman he had brought back to the mansion, pouring wine for him. Her waist was slender and delicate, and she was dressed in exquisite attire. In contrast, I had rushed here in a hurry, my hair disheveled, making her appear even more like a proper wife. In the high seat, the empress had a delicate face and glanced at me without saying a word, a smile on the corner of her mouth. Everyone looked at me sideways, some with pity, some with ridicule. Among them were several of my father's colleagues, who also avoided my gaze. No one spoke at the table, but the gossip was written all over their faces. Under everyone's gaze, I had no choice but to sit down in the concubine's seat behind the young lady. Someone had the nerve to speak up. Why did the lady arrive so late? It's only because the empress is so gracious that she spared you. There was no invitation to the banquet. Not even a note. They stopped me on the way here just to make a spectacle of me. I glanced at Lin Ji, but he remained indifferent, drinking the wine the young woman had offered him. This reminded me of something. Sitting upright like an old scholar, I knelt on the ground, grinding the pills. Husband, my hands are sore. A few more won't hurt. He's being sarcastic, isn't he, madam? Men remain silent while women shed tears. I'm squatting on the ground grinding these black pills, and my hands are almost broken. Madam hasn't been busy lately, so she doesn't go to the prince's mansion often. My elder sister means well. She saw that you were exhausted. He raised his eyebrows, and I shut my mouth. There's been some unusual activity in the capital lately. The lady should stay indoors. He rarely explained things so patiently, his words sincere. No sooner had he finished speaking than a servant reported from outside, "Sir, an official under Lin the Chancellor was assassinated on Chang'an Street." How was the assassin's technique? He stood up and opened the door. The sword fell swiftly. A single strike to the fatal spot. But the assassin was oddly persistent, carving a flower on the victim's face. Upon hearing this, Lin Ji glanced at me intentionally or not, asking the attendant, "What kind of flower?" "A hibiscus flower." He flaunted it as if seeking praise, acting like a child begging for candy. "Sister, why did you only give my brother the big black pill?" The young boy puffed out his cheeks and whined. "Why didn't I get one? Did I do something wrong?" He saw me kneeling on the ground grinding medicine early in the morning and asked me for some. Nonsense. With his strength and stamina, he could have taken half my life without the medicine. There's no way I'm giving it to him. This isn't candy. I pushed him away. "I'll give you something else sweet later." His eyes lit up, his face full of mischievous thoughts. Someone outside the courtyard announced, "Lady, the aunt from the palace has arrived." "I told you. Staying home is impossible. The number of times the Empress has summoned me. People might think I have a secret affair with her." The Empress doesn't have many tricks up her sleeve, just mockery, hot tea, and sitting in silence. The palace walls are so thick that even willow branches can't pierce through them. I grew tired of holding the hot tea and knelt down, eventually sitting on the ground. She flipped a page in her book, looked up, and saw me sitting there, about to speak. "Empress, I'll speak first. I have an item to present to you for your inspection." She had some psychological scars, yet also a hint of curiosity. "What is it?" "This item must be taken to the inner chambers to be opened." The Empress and I entered the inner chamber of her palace, one in front and one behind. The curtains fell, and the incense burner emitted a faint fragrance. I pulled a handkerchief from my sleeve and presented it with both hands. She picked up a corner, examined it carefully, and smelled the scent of pine. "What does this mean?" "It's warm, I just took it from his room today." I smiled obsequiously, hoping that if the Empress favored me, I could bring more items in the future. She suddenly threw the handkerchief on the table. "How dare you? Do you think I'm just a toy? What do I lack?" The Empress in the deep palace drove me out but didn't return the handkerchief. At night, I sat in my husband's study as usual, grinding the black pills. This time, the young man was by my side, helping me grind the medicine. He was more enthusiastic than me. When he saw my husband returning home, he leaned against my shoulder and whined, "Sister, you've spoiled brother so much. How could he bear to let you work so hard?" Lin Ji hadn't even stepped into the room yet when he heard this. He smiled leisurely and said, "Where did this pigeon come from? Always calling him brother? What kind of bird talk is that?" The young man pouted, rubbing against my shoulder in a provocative manner, acting quite arrogant. His soft black hair tickled me, and I giggled softly. As I laughed, I met Lin Ji's cold gaze and immediately fell silent. "Has the lady gone to the palace again today?" After shooing the young man away, Lin Ji asked me while undressing. I glanced at his undershirt and started to get ideas. "What is the lady looking at?" he asked, his tone no longer as cold as before. I felt a little guilty and changed the subject. "Your muscles are looking good," he mocked. "So one isn't enough to satisfy you?" My face lit up, and I gave him a meaningful look. "Can we?" His Adam's apple bobbed, and when he looked down at me, his expression was a mix of confusion and desire. "Can we what?" "Can we have a few more young men?" Early in the morning, the man selling green hats at the Lin Mansion's gate encountered the man selling steamed buns. "Da Liang, you're up early." The steamed bun seller sighed. "Ah, I didn't sleep all night. The Lin Mansion just stopped the wedding music, and now they're grinding medicine day and night again." "Oh, you don't know." The green hat seller leaned in and whispered, "They're making black medicine pills. That nobleman can't perform. So they're trying to help him. The carriage drove through Chang'an Street toward the palace. Along the way, starving refugees from the south knelt on the ground, selling their children. Passers-by shook their heads in disbelief. Nowadays, the officials are only interested in becoming immortals. And the southern region has been suffering from drought for 3 years with no one to care. All the disaster relief funds have fallen into the hands of corrupt officials. When the back door of a wealthy mansion opened, they threw out a lot of leftover food and wine, causing the refugees to scramble and trample each other. And they were driven away by the city guards with clubs. The Empress said, "No need to serve tea today. Just go to the inner room." Upon entering the Empress's inner chambers, I lifted the curtain and went in. The maids were busy arranging her hair. I glanced at her bed and saw the sweat cloth neatly placed by the pillow. "Empress, I bring you the nightgown you wore last night. Did you sleep well last night?" She glanced at the nightgown, and one of the maids took it. The Empress cleared her throat and asked me, "I heard that you spent the entire night grinding medicine pills?" The news was as swift as if I had been there myself. The Empress spoke honestly. "I have set my heart on a man from the Yulil Pavilion. I must bring him back to the palace and see him every day." I knelt down and pleaded with her, saying that if even a concubine like me could do this, how much more so could someone of the Empress's high status. She held a hairpin in her hand and looked up at me slightly. "You are always so ridiculous." I leaned closer to her. "If you truly love him, you can always find a reason to bring him to your side to serve you." The Empress dismissed the people around her and whispered to me, "Do you have a plan?" Lately, officials have been secretly killed outside the palace. If I get involved with the Empress, even if he's suddenly killed, it wouldn't be surprising. Change his identity, castrate him, and a eunuch can serve the Empress. "You seller of green hats, why are you crying?" A passerby asked the seller of green hats. "Where is the big man who sells steamed buns today?" Alas, heaven has no mercy. The big man's wife cheated on him, and a bowl of poison killed him. The seller of green hats sat in front of the Lin mansion crying. "The big man is gone. Go away. Don't cry in front of the Lin mansion." The mansion's guards drove the green hat seller away and hung white lanterns at the gate. "What's going on?" the green hat seller asked the passerby. "Don't you know?" the passerby said. "Poor Lord Lin. He was so young and successful, yet he was assassinated by thieves on the streets of Chang'an." The prince's carriage stopped at the door, and my sister got out and went straight into my room. I was wearing morning clothes and sitting on the bed wiping away tears, looking very sad and miserable, surrounded by people who were trying to persuade me. "Enough. Stop pretending." My elder sister dismissed the crowd. "Look how happy you are. You're no match for my elder sister's skills." I threw away the chili pepper from my handkerchief. "You've gained so much weight in just a few days." "Oh." She patted her belly. "I accidentally got pregnant." I swallowed hard. Old Prince Wang really is having a child in his old age. This is his grandson. My elder sister shot me a glance. This child might help the crown prince make up his mind sooner. After saying that, my elder sister pulled out a jar of pills from her bosom and handed them to me. "You need to act quickly as well." The path to the Empress's chambers was well trodden by me, but the attendants standing at the door looked unfamiliar. "Oh, is this the new eunuch?" I lifted my skirt and greeted him, finding him quite handsome. Lin Ji, dressed in eunuch attire, looked even more like an old fox. He gave me a cold glance and said sarcastically, "Now that your husband is dead, you look even more radiant." The eunuch is really joking. "I'm so heartbroken," I said, covering my chest. "I need someone to accompany me every night." The Empress rose and beckoned me into the inner chambers. "Your idea is quite clever." She let her hair down, and the scent of cedar wafted through the air. I stepped forward to arrange her hair. It is truly fate that connects the empress and the minister. She blushed and glared at me. You're such a sweet talker. I whispered, Empress. I hear that the emperor will soon retire to a Taoist monastery. This plan may not be sustainable. The empress frowned. Do you have a solution? Recently, the Purple Star has been in turmoil. Lin the Chancellor has been in charge of the government for a long time. He is truly a man of exceptional talent. We must not miss this opportunity. How dare you? The Empress scolded me, ordering me to kneel. How dare you speak such treasonous words? Whether to exterminate the clan or not, it all depends on the Empress's decision. I knelt down and bowed, holding the jar of pills. My father was the head of the military officials. I must follow the righteous ruler. In the late summer of the 34th year of the Chongdao era, the emperor passed away. The throne was vacant. And the Lin family, the emperor's maternal clan, seized power. The country was divided into factions, and wars broke out everywhere. Officials under the Lin family were assassinated one after another. Their sword techniques were consistent. Each strike was lethal, and the sword tails left marks engraved with a begonia flower. The people of the capital were in a state of panic and did not dare to easily surrender to Lin Xiang. I still went to the palace often to see the empress. One day, I happened to encounter the empress taking a nap, and Lin Ji was sitting outside the hall reading a book, completely absorbed in it. His eyes were as cold as spring water and as bright as the moon. His waist was cinched with a cloud-patterned sash, and a white jade pendant hung from it. His attire truly befitted the status of a male favorite. As I passed by him, I felt as though I could captivate the entire kingdom. Yet I saw no signs of the lady favoring me. He did not even glance at me. How ungrateful! He had only worn morning clothes for a few days before discarding them. Not pursuing one's career, one naturally lives with clarity. With that, I felt at ease. Lin Ji looked up at me and gave me a deep gaze, as if he wanted to etch my face into his memory. But he quickly averted his eyes and turned them toward the Empress's inner chambers. In a few days, it would be the new moon. There has been much turmoil in the capital lately. You must protect the Empress at all costs. The Empress has awakened. I turned to go into the inner chambers, but he suddenly called my name, Li Ruan. I turned back, and he said to me, there's no need to wear morning clothes. The hibiscus flowers suit you better. The new moon. The crown prince purged the court of corrupt officials, led Li's troops from the north, and stormed the capital. Lin Ji holds the imperial seal granting command over the Empress's 200,000 iron cavalry. With an inside-outside attack, they will breach the palace gates in one decisive blow. It was I who cultivated you into a high-ranking minister in the court, even trusting you enough to believe your deep affection for my daughter, so much so that you were willing to become a eunuch and a male favorite. When Lin Xiang saw the tide had turned, he was escorted by his personal guards, with hidden daggers holding Lin Ji hostage. I was blind to trust you. A traitorous dog. I gave my heart for the nation, but you betrayed me for the people. If I can bring peace and prosperity to the land, even death is worth it. Beyond the high palace walls, he shouted loudly and released the arrows. Thousands of arrows pierced the palace walls. It resembled a blazing tree in full bloom, with streaks of light cutting through the ink-black sky. The blazing tree bloomed, and the light shone brilliantly. The first time I saw Lin Ji was also on such a Zhongyuan night. Amidst the dimly lit streets, he wore a white robe like a painting, with a white jade pendant at his waist. His eyes were as cold as a spring, yet he looked at me with extraordinary tenderness. General Li said, "The young lady has pledged her entire fortune to marry me? Though I am a woman, I too have a desire to serve my country. If Lord Lin trusts me, I can assist you in your endeavors. I am a man of lowly means and not a gentleman. I fear I cannot protect you. I do not need protection. If I can bring peace to the land, even death would be worth it. In the summer of the 13th year of the new calendar, I was traveling in the southern regions. My elder sister, who had become empress, sent me a package from the capital, instructing me to deliver it to an old friend according to the address. I traveled for many days, and the villagers I passed gave me a basket of quince. Please take them quickly, young lady. This year is another bountiful harvest, there are more than enough to eat. Following the address, I found a village and asked a young cowherd for directions. I know, he exclaimed joyfully, leading me to a farmer's house. She is the most skilled doctor in our village, even people from the neighboring villages come to her for treatment. As soon as he finished speaking, I saw a woman carrying a bundle of herbs, taking the pulse of an old woman. Lana, my sister. I called out the name of my old friend. She didn't recognize me at first, but when she saw my face, tears welled up in her eyes. Sister. We chatted for a long time. She told me how she treated the villagers and how fun Jiangnan was. I stayed the night at Lana's house, and she insisted I stay longer. I declined, saying, in a few days, it will be the full moon, and I must go to sweep the graves of some friends. But what about that gentleman? She asked me. I nodded, and she no longer tried to keep me. Please trouble you, sister, to light some incense for me. The path isn't difficult, walking it every year makes it familiar. It reminded me of those days when I went to the palace every day to see that lady. Walking every day, growing familiar with the place. The grass on his tombstone was growing vigorously. It's all his fault for insisting on being buried in this fertile land of Jiangnan. He said he wanted to watch the people of the south live a good life. Now look at him, no one even bothers to weed his grave. When I'm old and can't walk anymore, who will come to pull the weeds for you? You old fox. Always making others do your bidding. You made me grind medicine in the past, and now you want me to weed your grave. You really owe me one. I crouched before the grave, muttering to myself. Outside, the sound of trumpets echoed. The Li family was a renowned military clan in the northern frontier. Enemies trembled at the mention of my father's name more than they did at the name of the current emperor. My father had only ever married my mother. He often said that she was exceptionally wise and even surpassed him in military strategy. Unfortunately, as a woman, her talents went unrecognized, and no one remembered her name. Ever since my mother married into the Li family, the palace had sent her tonic herbs every month without fail. However, the more she drank them, the weaker her body became. I had an older brother who died before he was full term. When I was born, my mother nearly died. At that moment, my father gripped the sword he had used on the battlefield and was about to charge out. But my mother held him back by his breath. She said, "Drink it. Let the Li family never have a son. Only then can we put an end to this and bring peace to those above." My father held my mother's hand for a long time before getting up and entering another room. He drew his sword and took his own life. He said he would never let my mother suffer again. He left for the northern frontier with no intention of returning. My father risked his life for the people's safety. But the emperor, obsessed with Buddhism, conscripted young men to build a tower, hoping for immortality. Beneath the 9-story pagoda lie the souls of thousands of innocent people, and the destruction of thousands of families. The year my elder sister was betrothed, my father returned victorious from battle against foreign enemies. Instead of receiving rewards, he was granted a marriage by the emperor, to become the second wife of an old prince. The emperor said that becoming a princess was a blessing that the Li family had earned through generations of good deeds. When my father returned home, he didn't even have time to wash off the dust of his journey. He spent the night with my sister in her room. Though I am old, I would give my life to protect you. My father's life is meant to protect the people. My elder sister remained surprisingly calm. My father fought on the battlefield, risking his life. Was it all for this? With famine ravaging the southern lands, how can the people find peace? As long as the tyrant remains and the traitors live. Even if we can defend the northern borders, what use is that? Loyalty to the righteous emperor and loyalty to the people, that is true loyalty and righteousness. Though I was born a woman and lack the martial arts skills of Mulan, I cannot follow my father into battle. But seeing the deep scars on my father's face, blown by the yellow sand, I have my own way to serve my country. My elder sister introduced me to the crown prince in the 3rd year after she married him. The crown prince sat on the boat, which drifted to the center of the lake. Endless white snow covered everything, as if the world was left with only this small boat. The prince was nothing like the reckless man described in rumors. Instead, he behaved with grace and propriety, his presence so commanding that one couldn't help but sit up straight. He smiled at me and said, "Your elder sister did not wish to involve you in this matter. However, to eliminate Lin Xiang, I must put on this charade. I still need a trusted ally who knows me well." "Are you afraid of death?" he asked me. "Yes," I answered honestly. "Then why did you agree to meet me?" he asked, still smiling, his gaze gentle. "In this play, you might die at the beginning, die halfway through, or die before dawn, and no one will ever know what you did for them." "I'm afraid," I admitted, "but I know they're more afraid, so I can't afford to be afraid. If you can truly bring them dawn, I don't care where I die." The prince looked at the empty snow-covered landscape in the distance and remained silent for a long time, until the snow weighed down the pine trees and fell to the ground. He said, "Someone once said the same thing to me." I asked him, "Who was that person?" "Lin Ji." On the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, with fireworks lighting up the sky, I saw the man named Lin Ji for the 2nd time. He was gentler than I had imagined. He said, "I cannot protect you." I said, "I don't need him to protect me." When we entered this grand drama, we both knew that no one could protect anyone else. No one needed to protect anyone else. On the balcony, there was no one else around, only the moon and distant fireworks. He and I stood in the dimly lit corner. He said we shouldn't stay here too long, but I held him back. I said, on the night of our wedding, he would have to go to the palace to perform for someone else. Why not take advantage of tonight's beautiful moonlight and get it over with? He smiled and said, "My lady is too impatient." That was the first time he called me my lady. I looked up at him, and he said, "But when you act like a rogue, you're truly adorable." He called me cute, but he didn't touch me. He just stared at me, as if he wanted to look into my heart. The prince had a young man under his command who played the swana extremely well. He looked harmless, but he could kill without blinking an eye. He often said, "The swana is a wonderful instrument. When it sounds, it either means you're going to heaven or getting married." The prince entrusted him to Lin Ji. This man was a master of hidden weapons, each strike fatal. But how to use him without arousing suspicion was up to you. The prince also said that this man, by Lin Ji's side, might save his life in a critical moment. On the day Lin Ji proposed to me, the dowry wasn't even prepared. It was hasty and careless. Anyone could tell he didn't care. Rumors spread throughout Chang'an that his beloved had just entered the palace, and he turned around and came to marry me because he was disheartened and desperate. There was indeed nothing in the dowry. However, there was a thin hairpin in a secret compartment. A white begonia flower was carved on it. People with big ambitions dare not rest for a moment. But some feelings are beyond human control. Just like lying beside Lin Ji at night. The Lin mansion is filled with Lin Xiang's men. Even at midnight, the shadows flickering on the walls aren't bamboo, but people. Like ghosts. They linger constantly, ready to strike from behind at any moment. Looking at his face, I've imagined countless times what kind of life we could have if things worked out. But I know I probably won't live to see that day. Does he love me? Do I love him? Some things can't be thought about. And shouldn't be thought about. Lin Ji said that some things must first be deceived from oneself before they can be deceived from others. Especially when dealing with someone as cunning and suspicious as Lin Xiang. So he said that he doesn't have me in his heart. That he only loves the woman in the deep palace. He was very determined. He repeated it every day. In this play, he was the comedian, and I was the straight man. He loved the white moonlight in the palace. I loved the young man who played the Swana. We hated each other. But we were a married couple on the surface. Step by step, I walked into the palace and stood in front of the empress. I assimilated, submitted, and persuaded him. Then I sent him step by step into the palace. To that empress. From a young scholar to a eunuch and a favorite. I watch him become the object of everyone's contempt. From having a name and status to being nameless and faceless. He says, "My methods are base and unworthy of a gentleman. I fear I cannot protect the lady." Many years after the matter is settled, the prince becomes emperor, and my elder sister becomes empress. That grand drama, as the prince had foretold, faded into obscurity in an unknown corner. But it transformed into the fertile soil nourishing the southern lands. The young man turned his head. Tears hanging in the air, clinging to my sleeve, whimpering softly. Later, the prince told me that he had once issued a death sentence to the young man, vowing to protect the one holding the white camellia flower with his life. He gave the jade carved with a white camellia flower to Lin Ji. It was the jade he wore around his waist when he came to see me on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival. The night I begged him to marry me. But I never imagined that Lin Ji would hook the jade onto a hairpin. He placed it among the hastily prepared dowry and gave it to me. He never once said he loved me. He never touched me even once. In the end, he couldn't even give me a proper farewell. The last words he spoke to me were in that dark corner. Deep within the palace walls, where no one could see. Li Ruan. There's no need to wear mourning clothes. The camellia flowers suit you better. The end.